your grocery bill, your local silos. Both are sitting on a ticking time bomb. The bread on your table starts in a concrete tower. These structures are marvels of engineering, but they are also massive, unexploded bombs, and I have the receipts to prove it. You see a peaceful farm landscape. I see a high-pressure combustion chamber. One spark can level a city block. It has happened before. It will happen again. Your safety depends on understanding why. Grain seems harmless. You eat it every day. But when you grind it, you create dust. This dust is more than waste. It is a highly efficient fuel. It has a massive surface area. This changes everything. Here is the first piece of evidence. The physics of particulates is brutal. When grain dust reaches a specific concentration, it becomes explosive. We call this the lower explosive limit. It is an invisible, deadly threshold. Think about your car engine. It uses misted gasoline to create power. A grain elevator does the same thing, but it does it on a massive scale. The silo becomes the cylinder. The dust is the fuel. The data reveals a terrifying reality. A layer of dust as thin as a paperclip can trigger a blast. It covers every ledge. It hides in every corner. You are walking through a fuel depot without realizing it. But here is where it gets interesting. The structure itself is the problem. Concrete silos are built to hold weight. They are not built to hold pressure. They are rigid. They are brittle. They are perfect for a catastrophe. You might think modern technology fixed this. You would be wrong. The engineering flaw is baked into the design. We built thousands of these towers in the mid-century. Now they are aging. They are becoming more dangerous. The math says we are overdue. Every year the friction increases. Every year the static builds up. You are looking at a multi-billion-dollar liability. The insurance companies are already starting to run away from the risk. This validates your suspicion that something is wrong. The industry knows the truth. They call it the grain bomb for a reason. It is not a matter of if, it is only a matter of when. Let me show you the hidden mechanism. It starts with a simple conveyor belt. The belt moves thousands of tons of grain. It creates friction. It creates heat. It creates the perfect ignition source for the dust. Now you understand the setup. We have the fuel. We have the oxygen. We have the confined space. All we need is the spark. In the winter of 1977, the spark finally arrived. It changed the industry forever. Stay with me, because the next part changes everything. We are going back to the worst week in agricultural history. 2 massive explosions. Hundreds of millions in damages. A total collapse of the safety narrative. Let me show you the first piece of evidence. December 27, 1977. Westwego, Louisiana. The Continental Grain Elevator was a state-of-the-art facility. It was the pride of the export industry. Then, it simply ceased to exist. The blast was heard for miles. 36 people lost their lives instantly. The concrete silos didn't just crack. They shattered like glass. This is the structural engineering flaw in action. Concrete cannot handle internal tension. You have to realize the scale. These towers were hundreds of feet tall. They were reinforced with steel, yet the internal pressure of the dust explosion was too much. It ripped the reinforcement apart like paper. But here is the twist. While the world was watching Louisiana, it happened again, just 5 days later. Galveston, Texas. Another massive export terminal exploded. 18 more people were gone. The pattern was undeniable. The real story is the financial fallout. These 2 events caused over $100 million in immediate liability. In today's money, that is nearly $500 million. The insurance industry was rocked to its core. Sound familiar? It should. We see the same pattern in every industrial collapse. Rapid expansion leads to ignored risks. The 1970s grain boom pushed these facilities to the limit. They were running faster than they were designed. Here is what they are not telling you. The investigation found a common thread. It wasn't just bad luck. It was a failure of mechanical maintenance. Bearings were overheating. Dust was accumulating. The system was failing. You were right to be concerned about aging infrastructure. These 1977 disasters were a warning. They led to the creation of OSHA 1910.272. This is the federal standard for grain handling. It was supposed to fix everything. But here is the catch. Regulations only work if you can afford to follow them. The cost of compliance is staggering. For a small elevator, it can be millions. Many chose to take the risk instead. Now here is where most people get this wrong. They think the first explosion is the one that kills you. It isn't. The primary blast is usually small. It happens in a basement or a leg boot. The real danger is the secondary explosion. The first blast shakes the building. It knocks decades of dust off the rafters. Now the entire building is filled with fuel. The second blast is the one that levels the structure. The documents show this happened in both Westwego and Galveston. A small pop followed by a massive roar. You can't run from it. You can't hide from it. The engineering of the building ensures total destruction. Let me show you the pattern. The silos act like a series of interconnected bombs. The galleries and tunnels provide the path. Once the flame starts, it travels at supersonic speeds. It is a fuel-air explosive. This is not a flaw. This is the design. We built these facilities to be efficient. We built them to move grain fast. In doing so, we created the perfect environment for a chain reaction. Efficiency became our enemy. The data reveals that 1977 was just the peak. Between 1976 and 1978, there were dozens of smaller incidents. The total liability exceeded the value of the grain itself. The industry was facing a total bankruptcy crisis. Stay with me because the next part changes everything. We are moving from the history to the engineering. Why does concrete fail so spectacularly? The answer lies in the chemistry of the material itself. Concrete is amazing at compression. You can stack a mountain on it, but it has almost no tensile strength. When the dust explodes, it creates internal pressure. The concrete has nowhere to go but out. Here is the part they hide. Most silos are built with slip-form construction. It is fast and cheap, but it creates a continuous structure. If one part fails, the whole thing is compromised. There are no breakpoints. Think about your own home. If a window breaks, the walls stay up. In a silo, the wall is the window. When it goes, the roof follows. Then the adjacent silos collapse. It is a structural domino effect. The truth is, we knew this in the 1920s, but we ignored it for the sake of volume. We needed to feed the world. We needed to export. We traded safety for throughput. You are paying the price now. Here is what nobody else will tell you. Modern silos are still using these old designs. We have thousands of concrete towers that are 50 years old. They are brittle. They are cracked. They are waiting for a spark. And here is the critical part. The grain itself has changed. Modern farming uses more chemicals. The dust is finer. It is more reactive. We are putting higher grade fuel into older, weaker engines. It is a recipe for disaster. You might think steel silos are better. They aren't. While they don't shatter like concrete, they crumple. The pressure is so intense it turns heavy steel into tinfoil. There is no safe way to contain a grain bomb. Now you see the full picture. The engineering of the silo is a compromise. It is a balance between cost and capacity. Safety was always the third priority. The insurance companies are the only ones who noticed. Let me show you the mechanism they don't want you to see. It is called the venting ratio. To be safe, a silo needs huge vents. These vents let the pressure out before the walls blow, but vents are expensive. Most older silos have almost no venting. They are sealed tight to keep the grain dry. This turns them into pipe bombs. If you don't have a way to release the pressure, the building becomes the vent. The math says a proper vent needs to be 1 square foot for every 80 cubic feet. Almost no concrete silo in America meets this standard. They are all structurally deficient by modern safety definitions. This isn't theory, this is mathematics. If the pressure rises faster than the air can escape, the structure fails. It is a physical certainty. You can't argue with the laws of thermodynamics. What I'm about to show you is the financial reality. The insurance industry has a memory. They remember 1977. They have spent 40 years tracking every spark. Now they are finally closing the checkbook. In the last 5 years, premiums for grain elevators have exploded. Some have seen 300% increases. Why? Because the risk models are flashing red. The aging infrastructure is reaching its breaking point. Here is the revelation. Many facilities are becoming uninsurable. If you can't get insurance, you can't get a loan. If you can't get a loan, you can't operate. We are looking at a massive infrastructure collapse. You are seeing the beginning of a corporate bankruptcy wave. Small cooperatives are being crushed by the cost of safety. Only the massive giants can afford to stay in the game. The landscape is changing. But here is the twist. Even the giants are worried. They are abandoning concrete for flat storage. They are moving away from the very structures that built the industry. They know the grain bomb is real. The real story is the cost to you. When an elevator explodes, the supply chain breaks, prices spike, your food becomes more expensive, you are paying for the engineering flaws of the 1970s every single day. The pattern is always there. We build fast, we ignore the physics, we wait for the disaster, then we spend decades trying to fix the mistake. It is the cycle of industrial engineering. Sound familiar? It should. We do the same thing with bridges. We do it with the power grid. We are living in a world built on deferred maintenance and wishful thinking. The grain silo is just the loudest example. What I'm about to show you is the role of static electricity. This is the silent killer. You feel it when you touch a doorknob. In a grain elevator, it is a lethal force. It is everywhere. The grain moving through the pipes creates a massive charge. If the system isn't perfectly grounded, the spark will jump. It only takes a few millijoules. That is less energy than a camera flash. Here is the part they don't want you to know. Grounding a 50-year-old concrete tower is nearly impossible. The rebar is rusted, the connections are broken. The whole building is a giant capacitor waiting to discharge. The data reveals that static is the leading cause of unknown ignitions. We can't see it, we can't smell it, but it is there. Every time the wind blows or the grain moves, the danger increases. You are part of this system. Every time you buy a loaf of bread, you are supporting this infrastructure. You have a stake in its safety. But the system is failing you. It is hiding the risk. Let me show you the first piece of evidence regarding modern failures. Look at the 2021 explosion in Ohio or the 2017 blast in Wisconsin. These weren't old, abandoned sites. These were active, modern facilities. The official story is always an accident. The real story is a failure of engineering. We are still using the same basic designs from a century ago. We haven't evolved. We have only gotten faster. Here is why this matters today. We are entering a period of extreme weather. Heat waves increase the dryness of the dust. Dry dust is more explosive. The margin for error is shrinking every single year. The cost of not knowing this is high. If you live near one of these facilities, you are in the blast zone. If you invest in agricultural stocks, you are holding the liability. The risk is not localized. Every day this continues, you lose a little more safety. The concrete gets more brittle. The dust gets finer. The insurance companies get more nervous. We are approaching a tipping point in agricultural engineering. Now you see the full picture. The grain bomb isn't a myth. It is a documented physical reality. It is the result of a century of engineering choices. We chose volume over safety. Now the bill is due. But here is the question nobody asks. What happens when the silos are gone? If we can't store the grain, we can't feed the population. We are trapped by our own infrastructure. We can't live with it, and we can't live without it. This is the part where most people get overwhelmed. The problem seems too big. But understanding the mechanism is the first step. We have to stop treating these as simple buildings. They are complex, dangerous machines. The truth is, the engineering exists to make them safe. We have explosion suppression systems. We have high-speed venting. We have infrared heat sensors, but they cost money. And the industry is low margin. Here is the revelation. The liability is so high that it is cheaper to let the building explode than to retrofit every silo. That is the cold, hard math of corporate finance. Your safety is a line item. They call it acceptable risk. But is it acceptable to you? Is it acceptable to the workers inside? The 1977 wave proved that the risk is never truly acceptable when the bodies start piling up. Let me show you the pattern of regulatory failure. OSHA tries to enforce the rules. The industry lobbies to delay them. The result is a stalemate. Meanwhile, the concrete continues to crack and the dust continues to settle. You knew something was wrong when you saw those old towers leaning over the highway. You were right. They are monuments to a dangerous era. They are the ghosts of a $100 million mistake that we are still repeating. The real story is the transition to steel. Steel silos are cheaper and easier to vent, but they have a shorter lifespan. We are trading a massive, explosive problem for a shorter-term, structural one. It is a lateral move. Here is what nobody else will tell you. The global grain trade is moving to bag storage. Huge plastic sleeves on the ground. No dust, no silos, no explosions. It is the ultimate admission of engineering failure. If the only way to be safe is to stop using the building is a failure. Period. That is the verdict on the concrete grain elevator. It is an obsolete, dangerous technology that we are forced to maintain. Stay with me, because the next part changes everything. We are looking at the future of liability. The next big explosion won't just result in a fine, it will result in the total dissolution of the company involved. The legal landscape has shifted. Act of God. Defenses don't work anymore. We know too much about dust physics. We know too much about structural engineering. Ignorance is no longer a legal shield. This validates your suspicion that the elites are protecting themselves. The big grain companies are spinning off their elevator assets. They are distancing themselves from the liability. They are leaving the risk to the locals. Same pattern, different industry. We saw it with coal. We saw it with asbestos. The people at the top exit with the profits. The people at the bottom are left with the grain bomb. But here is the catch. The insurance companies are the ones who will finally kill the silo. They are the ultimate regulators. When they refuse to sign the policy, the facility dies. That day is coming soon. The math says that by 2035, over 60% of existing concrete silos will be uninsurable. That is a massive hole in our national infrastructure. We have no plan to replace them. We are just waiting for the collapse. Before I give you the 3 takeaways, let me show you one more thing. Look at the grain elevators in Europe. They are different. They are smaller. They are vented. They don't explode. This was a choice. We chose the grain bomb because it was more profitable in the short term. We chose the $100 million liability because we thought we could outrun the physics. We were wrong. The physics always wins. Now you understand the engineering flaw. It is a combination of brittle material, confined space, and high energy fuel. It is a perfect storm that we built on purpose, and you are living in its shadow. Here are the 3 takeaways you need to remember. First, grain dust is a high-grade explosive. It is not just dirt, it is fuel. Treat it with the same respect you give to gasoline or propane. Second, concrete is the wrong material for high-pressure environments. It is a structural mismatch. Every concrete silo is a potential pipe bomb because it cannot vent the pressure of a secondary explosion.